there's so much conversation about the quote community, right? And that being the community of trail runners. And I mean, they tend to be, really good people who are invested in the outdoors and things like that. But I think you're right that oftentimes, it's the same old story that people don't always know how to give back in that way. So for us to find other ways for them to be able to do that is a good thing. So
You're listening to Relish This, the Purpose Marketing Podcast. Here's your host, Stu Swineford.
Hey everybody, Stu here. Welcome to Relish This. My guest today is Peter Downing, and he is the founder and executive director of Suffer Better, which is a really great Colorado organization that encourages people, athletes in particular, who are out there really, giving their all for their sport to just give back a little bit more. And one of the things that Peter and I talked about was this idea of creating a variety of different ways for people to give back. So whether that's donations or volunteering time or participating in a volunteer type event, or just going out on one's own to pick up trash, to build trail, to just give a little bit back. Is really what Suffer Better is all about and what we talked about today. Peter and I are both part of the Colorado Outdoor Business Alliance as well. So we have a lot in common. This was a fantastic show. I always love talking with Peter, and I hope you really enjoy it. Here we go. Hey, Peter, how are you today?
I'm great, Stu. Thank you so much. How about yourself?
I am doing very well. It's a gorgeous day up here today. Blue skies, no wind. It's an anomaly.
Yeah. Well, the blue sky is not so rare. The wind, especially up where you are lately, has been it's been howling a little bit. So I'm glad it's not.
Yeah, it's been pretty sporty. We lost power last week for about 6 hours, and so I was also on the schedule to get a new internet service installed that day, and they were unable to do that because it was so windy. So we were fortunate to get that in yesterday.
Wow. Well, good. So you've got more juice and, more access, and so you can do more.
Yeah, well, that's the plan, right? Since we're all confined to our homes still, it seems like might as well have good internet.
Yes, agreed. And we have, here I have, there's three of us all, here at my house. So my daughter's here from Germany and my wife is here. So, we're all, fighting for office space. It's fun.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation that we're all getting to experience. But I certainly have gotten to do a lot more things by being able to work from home. It saves me at least an hour in the car on most days. So that's a plus. I'm trying to look for pluses.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. The other thing I do is just end up spending more time outdoors.
Yeah, me too.
Because if I don't have to commute, there's such a nice opportunity to go be out in those blue skies. So
yeah,
take full advantage of it.
Well, that's a great segue into what you are up to there at Suffer Better. You guys do a lot of outdoor stuff.
We do. Our whole deal is to essentially engage the endurance community into the whole notion of giving back, especially to protect the places where we all spend so much time. Our typically big winter event, which is part of the Up for Air series, we had to cancel this year, which was a real blow, honestly. It's one of our best and most popular events. And so we didn't get to do that this year, but we've got a couple more things coming this spring and then our fall run, obviously. So those things are still on the book. So we're pretty excited about those things.
That's great. When is your next event, at least scheduled?
Right now, we're still negotiating with a couple of the state parks. We want to do a ride and tie. And I don't know if you know what those are. Um, it's a team event, and each team consists of two participants, one runner and one biker, but they're each the other, so they switch off.
Okay.
So you have a 20-mile, about a 20 to 25-mile course, and everybody starts at the same time. So your team starts with a runner and a biker. They do the first 5 miles, then they switch. The runner becomes the biker becomes the runner. They do the next 5 miles, switch again, and continue to do that for the duration. Super fun, and one of our goals has always been to do a better job of connecting with the mountain bike community. So this is
Okay.
a fun way for us to get runners and riders together, since we share so many things, and get us together and commit to something. And as with most of our stuff, we the proceeds of the event go back to protecting public lands, clean air, clean water, those kinds of things. So,
And are you doing that through Conservation Colorado still, or are there other organizations that you've partnered with?
we work with both Protect Our Winters and Conservation Colorado. I know you're familiar with this, but there's this new thing called the 30 by 30.
Mm-hmm.
It has become sort of the buzz in the environmental community as well, and the goal being to protect 30% of the land and 30% of the water by 2030. And that's now a national and international goal. So we're tying into those programs as part of this as well.
That's great. And how many people participate in these events typically?
So the ride and tie will probably be 100 people, 50 teams.
Okay.
But our other events are anywhere from 150 to 200, depending upon what we're allowed to do. It's again, the COVID wreaked a little havoc there, and so our last event, which was our run in the fall, given all the health protocols we needed to adhere to, we had to limit the number of our participants, but we still had 120 crazy runners come out, and so that was spectacular. It was really fun. Great day.
Was that one of those 4, 8, 12-hour type events that you have done? Or?
That's our Up for Air series. This one was just a flat out 16-mile trail run, which we did up at Staunton State Park off 285.
Okay, that's great. That's cool that you got that many people and were able to adjust your protocols to make that work.
Yeah, it was. It was honestly the most beautiful day I think I'd ever spent in the mountains, and the aspens were in full glory. It was warm, and people hadn't. This was October, so people had not been really able to do a live event in a really long time, and so
Right.
the joy was so evident, and just watching all these people just really relish the idea of being outdoors, being together, doing all this. It was mind-boggling. Honestly, it was just such a good day. So
yeah, it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So how have you been able to adjust things in these changing times with social distancing and things like that? Was that the only event that you were able to put on last year, or did you do some virtual events?
We did a couple. It's funny. We did our last year. Well, 2020. I guess that is last year now.
Mm-hmm.
Our Up for Air series was really the last event that anybody did before the world shut down. So it was early March,
Right?
And that was the 3, 6, 12, and 24-hour Up for Air event, which was so fun. There was so much snow up top at Staunton. I mean, people were literally, first runners up were thigh deep in some places.
Wow.
Snow on the trail. So, I mean, it was lovely. But then we did do a couple of virtual events over the next few months. One was, we called it You Do You, which was just people set a goal And given sort of the turmoil that the country was in, we didn't even care if it was an athletic goal. We just
Mhm.
wanted people to pick something, identify something that they really wanted to strive for, and then go do it. And we created all these shareable Google Docs so that people could update one another, and they were all on this forum. And it was so fun to see, all the variety of goals, which were quite literally all over the place. Everything from learn another language to learn more about people of color to learn more about this. And yeah, there were even some athletic ones in there, but they would jot down their progress, and other people would chime in and say, "Oh, I love that. I'm going to do that." And so it was super fun.
That sounds great. How long did that event, for lack of a better word, that particular challenge take place?
We gave them 6 weeks to
Okay.
kind of identify what they did, and then they were required, quote required, I should say, to provide weekly updates and basically progress reports and talk about what they were going. And the other piece that was so fun was they could ask the community for help. So if somebody was looking for a resource about something as they were trying to get to this goal, they would ask the community, and people would chime in and answer that. And so it was super fun. And we came out of that with, I mean, it was just one of those things, very different, but people loved it and appreciated, just getting the chance to do something a little different as well, instead of all the other ones.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just like that out of the box thinking there in terms of inclusivity. So you don't have to be, an elite athlete to have a good time and to learn something and to be able to feel like you're participating in, um, in a program and an event. And so it's
Yeah.
really great community building. And I like some of those challenges. I think that's just great. People really committing to those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I actually think that just setting goals and going after those things is one of the greatest things we can do these days, when there's so much uncertainty about so many other things, that you can do this. And then you I think part of it is just having control over something,
Yeah,
because I feel like so many of us feel like, oh my gosh, I have no control over any of this stuff. I'm just this leaf getting blown around. But if you have a goal and you have a process, then it gives you a way to go get something. And I think that works. I think a lot of people appreciate that. So
well, it at least creates an accountability, which I think in both personal and business life is something that a lot of people are challenged with in terms of
yep.
finding a thing to go after that motivates them enough to feel like they're accountable and
Right.
um, at least to themselves, if not a community. And I think that by kind of gamifying that or bringing that community
Yep.
into the plan, that's a really really great way to tap into
Yeah.
kind of our own natural psychology.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
I think people really liked that too, because they were, it's not like they weren't graded or anything. And so we didn't harp on that, but every single person, um, weekly, got in there, and they honestly said, I killed it this week, or holy cow, I didn't do anything this week.
Right, right.
And so they put it out there, and I really appreciated that a lot. And
Yeah, that's great.
yeah,
I love it.
it was fun.
How are you going to do something similar this year, or is
Yeah,
that back
I mean,
burner?
we'll do some. Right now, we have a really big challenge going on. It's called when we found out we weren't going to do the Up for Air series event this year, uh,
Mm-hmm.
which is part of, it takes place at five or six different locations now. In Montana, there's 3 events in Utah. We do the Colorado one. There's an associated climbing up for air component.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they've all been shut down, and so um, we've trying again to raise funds for, Conservation Colorado and protect our winters again. So right now we're doing we call it the 14ers Challenge. And the goal is that you can either run it, ski it, bike it, or mix them all.
Mm-hmm.
The goal is you have to get to 225 miles and 180,000 vertical feet by June, which is if you add the distances you would hike and the elevation you would gain to do all of Colorado's 58 14,000 foot summits, that's about what it would be.
Oh, interesting.
So we've got, and each of those specific things has a Strava club. So
Okay.
people are competing against each other, and the only people in the club are people that have registered for the event. So it's really fun to watch, all these people going out and, getting some serious elevation and some serious miles. I mean, we're not even at the end of January, and we've got people already that have got like 35,000 vertical feet and 100 miles, and so it's really fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool. And so you're making some revenue on that based upon the entry fee.
Yes.
Okay.
We do that. We do have a couple of companies that typically have sponsored our things,
Okay.
and they're back for this, and so
Okay.
They help out a little bit. And then the other thing that we ask each of our participants to do is to become a fundraiser themselves.
Yep.
So they can actually go and create a fundraising page which they can share so that they can get their friends, family, colleagues, etc., to, support their efforts. So we end up, but when it's all said and done, we'll probably be able to give, I'm guessing, at least a total of $5,000 back to POW and Conservation Colorado, which is, it's real money.
Yeah, that's great.
So
that's great.
That's exciting for us and fun for us. So.
Yeah. Have you considered kind of gamifying the fundraising piece where maybe there's some sort of algorithm that you write where if you get more fundraising, then you can reduce the distance or the vert?
No, because as we told everybody, it's like we're not called Suffer Better for nothing, right?
Right.
You got to do that. But what we do have is we have our supporters, the companies that we work with, have donated product so that if you reach certain fundraising goals,
okay,
then you can win a vest from Ultimate Direction or a pair of Hokas or something like that. So
okay, cool. Yeah, I was just thinking about when I ran the New York Marathon many years ago now. You could either there were like three basic. I mean, there are probably more than three, but there were three basic ways to get into the race. And the first was to qualify. So that really kind of tapped into more elite runners or at least age group elites. Yep. The second was just a pure lottery. So you just threw your name in the hat and hopefully it got drawn. And then the third was they had a fundraising, a charity entry avenue where if you raised, I don't remember the dollar figure, but if you raised a certain amount of money, then you could get your slot opened up based upon your fundraising. And I don't think they actually gamified that. I think they just set limits or numbers where they said, if you raise $5,000 for one of these charities, or get people, to sign on to sponsor your race in that fashion, then you would get an entry. So I'm wondering, and the thing that I liked about that was it allowed, it made it so that if you were, that there was a kind of an attainable route to entry to this really marquee race.
Yep.
If you weren't an elite and if you weren't quote unquote lucky. And so it gave people a little bit of control,
Yeah.
but also, allowed them to say, I'm never going to be able to run fast enough to qualify for this, but I know I can raise $5,000 through my network.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of an interesting concept.
I like that idea. And I know that for the running up for air thing, we did that. And so that if you raised, this was last March, I think the deal was that if you raised 10x the entry fee, then your entry, you didn't have to pay the money, right? So
Okay, right.
did the 24-hour race, which the entry fee was $120. So if you raised 1,200, then
you waived your fee. Got it.
Correct. So,
yeah.
I too, I love that idea a lot, because it's really true that some people are really good at that fundraising thing,
Right.
and
Right.
they can talk their friends and family out of a buck or two almost any day, and so I love that there's a way for them to do that, like you said, because otherwise, if you can't, if you can't qualify with the time deal, I don't even know what it is anymore, but it's faster than I go.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it was funny because at one point I qualified with a marathon time, and then the next year they noticed that their
So
lottery had gotten all out of whack because too many people qualified, and then they dropped to the marathon time by like 15 minutes. It was this ridiculous decrease.
Well, you can't do that after I've qualified.
Well, they grandfathered the people who'd already qualified in, but it was like, oh, well, I have to go, because I'm never going to qualify again. And then that was the year that that the hurricane hit. So they actually canceled the race. And then, long story short, they readjusted the qualification times at some point and brought them back up to a reasonable level. And I ended up being able to qualify again using a half marathon time. So I got back in, and that's how I eventually ran it. But yeah, there was a period of time there where it was like, well, all right, I guess I'm never going to be able to run New York.
Yeah, I'm going to raise some money, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So one of the things that I've always wanted to do, and I created flyers for this. I just never pulled the trigger on it, but it was a race that I was calling, and I don't think this is a unique format, but I was calling it a tortoise chase. And what I was hoping to do was to create a situation where somebody who'd never actually won a race might have the opportunity to win a race. And essentially, I would take the format was essentially a time trial, an individual start, seeded time trial where we would take your 5K, your best 5K or whatever you wanted to put in, and then would stage people, and their start time would go off in some kind of, adjusted by time, so that so the theory was everyone would finish, like there'd be a sprint finish, like
right.
There'd be this huge pack finish. And even if you were the slowest person out there, based upon you started first, you might have the opportunity to actually win a race. And so that's where I'm thinking that you might be able to tie in. So instead of just giving away the race fee, create some sort of mechanism by which someone could win, quote unquote, by taking time away based upon how much they raise.
Okay. Yeah, because so that's super interesting, because I think one of the things that sort of kept people from, we got signups, right? But not nearly as many as of course I'd like.
Right.
And I think part of that is it's pretty daunting when you look at that and say, okay, I got to do at least 40 miles a week and 30,000
vert,
whatever it is, the feet of vert every that's a lot. And I think that scared a few people. So that's good thoughts for next time. We'll do that.
Yeah, it was just something to consider in that, might be able to bring in a wider range of people. So instead of people who are like, oh yeah,
I,
I run 200 miles a month, what,
right.
no big deal,
Yeah.
or whatever. Be able to bring in some people and maybe get them off the couch,
Yeah. Right.
so their fitness would improve, their outlook on what competing might change.
Yeah.
And so, just thinking about all those different ways that you can kind of engage people and allow them to play in the zone in which they're most adept.
Yeah. That's a great idea. And in fact, we have one of the folks in our group. She's one of these people. I think she's actually a dentist in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
She also runs a gym. So in the mornings, she's always got her crew out in the parking lot, swinging kettlebells and, doing all these things. And she signed up for it just because she's a trooper. But she
Right.
said to me, she says, I have no idea how I will ever get the vert because
Right.
I'm in a flat place. And so if I have a hilly run, maybe I get 50 feet today. And
Right.
so at 50 feet a day, she said, it's going to take me what?
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
So yeah, finding ways, because not everybody's just totally willing to just jump in it, regardless, right? They want some sense that they're actually going to achieve that. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's a good idea. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah. One of my friends is, her name's Allison Powers, and she was a national champion road racer, and she was on the Olympic ski team for a while. And she runs a coaching service called Out Cycles.
Yep.
And she created some fun things last year that where she would do like a bingo card, and she would create a whole bunch of stuff that if you saw on your ride, you got to check off. And and then there was another thing that she did where and both of these, the point I'm trying to make was this idea of trying to be inclusive, where
Yep.
you can't put snow on the list in, if this is running in June.
Yeah.
You can put it on there, but have something else on there like alligator, that so that the people in Florida are going to be able to participate, or whatever. And those aren't the best examples, but the way that she constructed the thing was to try to make it so that people all over the country, or even the world in theory, could participate in some fashion, and just making it really inclusive. And I think that there were some goals on there too. Like one of the squares was climb a certain number of feet a day. But there was another one that didn't require climbing, or that would be difficult to attain if you lived in a hilly place. So, maybe, I don't know exactly what that one was, but just, trying to think through ways to make it, super inclusive.
No, I love that idea. And I mean, that's one of our challenges anyway, is that, just our name alone tends to draw in sort of more of, I guess you'd call them the hardcore, when and so finding ways to open that door and grow the community with others that are, that aren't the, I do 500 milers a year or whatever, right?
Sure. Right.
That's a big challenge for us. And so finding ways to open that door a little bit and allow more people to come in is those are great thoughts.
Well, I think that there's real opportunity there, because, when you think of it, and it's hard sometimes to kind of think this way, but, the person who's running a, let's say a 3-hour half marathon, they're suffering as much as the person who's running a 3-hour marathon. They're out there the same amount of time, and that
I'd almost say you're right, for sure.
Yeah. And
it's harder for them.
And so everyone has the ability to suffer better, even if you're a 45-minute 5K person. You're out there doing it, and just the creating that opportunity to think about how you can, because I know that one of your tags is 110%. Enabling that in any capacity is, I think that creates a real opportunity, particularly if you can mobilize some of the elites to be kind of maybe part of a mentoring group within your community.
Yes. I mean, that's very true. And I love that notion. I mean, that's, we have this grant program, which is off to a less than, we've given away a few. Our biggest challenge is raising the money, especially over the last year.
Right.
One of the groups that has applied for one of our grants is a group that wants to start working with young kids and getting them involved in trail running, especially kids from, challenging, areas, socioeconomically, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That otherwise, even the notion of trail running is completely foreign. But it's that same kind of thing, and it's really what we all need to do is to grow our communities so that we're more inclusive of all of that.
Right.
And so anything we can do to do that is a good thing. So
what are the challenges that you're facing there? Is it getting in front of the audience, or is it getting them interested? What's the main obstacle there, do you think?
I think just being visible enough to more people is our biggest thing. I mean, we don't have a ton of money. We don't have a big staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our the mechanisms we use are our events, social media, things like that. And, it only goes so far. And it's, our partners help us a lot, but they too are sometimes, they're talking to the same audience in a lot of ways. So it's why, for example, Running Up for Air was such a great event, is because everybody gets that. And, that we've found a lot of ways for people to participate in that without actually having to run. So we got lots of volunteers who were interested, and they were from all over the place in different groups. And I mean, that really helped to gather some awareness. But it is true that, our biggest challenge is just getting bigger and big enough so that we can do more. That's what it comes right down to, right? Right.
Well, that's the whole nonprofit marketing challenge, right? Is figuring out how to expand that mission. And it's great that you have an understanding that there is opportunity there, and going after how do we increase that footprint.
Yes.
So I know you have a mailing list, because I'm on that.
Yep.
How many people are on that list right now, do you think?
Right now it's just under 2,000.
Okay.
And they're all over the place. I mean, I would say the majority are at least Colorado, US, but we have these weird little pockets, groups in, say, Western Europe and Australia. For some reason, they're all over us, and it's just interesting. And so, as an example, I have a call with a running nonprofit in Australia later this week, just to talk about how we've done things and how we can help each other and things like that. And then, the mailing list is one thing. We've got, almost upwards of 4,500, followers on social media, things like that. And we try hard to be out there on that a lot. but again, I think that the challenge with those things is just getting that to stick.
Mm-hmm.
It's like social media is great because, somebody likes your picture or whatever,
Sure. Yeah.
but they don't engage. And that's what we need. We need
Right.
not just followers. We need, people to really get engaged and either come run with us, do things with us, volunteer, things like that,
Right. 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 Do you have a kind of an ambassador program? I know that
we,
you
we did.
okay.
And, well, it's funny. When we first came out the door, back in 2014, 15, we had a pretty robust ambassador program, but it didn't, whether it was how poorly we managed,
Sure. Yeah.
which is another issue. Um, we had great people all over the country, and we were very thoughtful and all of that about who we picked and why and things like that. We had this really stellar group, but that didn't seem to grow us. And partly back then, we didn't have our events. And now that we have our events, I think it might be worth revisiting that, because then now we have something more tangible for, I guess, that instead of just a way of thinking,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
would attract people. So that's something we've sort of been bouncing around with a little bit lately. And I know we also have talked. One of the things we'd love to do is do some kind of fun little film about what we're doing that would be
Mm-hmm.
that we could get out there. So, of course, that costs money too, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, money or time.
Yeah,
Probably both.
yeah,
But yeah, I think if you have a good concept and you have a good story,
yeah.
it doesn't have to necessarily be a feature film.
No,
And there's certainly a lot of opportunities to get those kinds of things in front of people.
yep.
I think right now it's more challenging because film festivals are struggling a little bit as well.
Oh yeah.
But I do know that there are quite a few kind of adventure film type
Yep.
festivals or outdoor film festivals just here in the state that
Yep.
that are always looking for materials to screen.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. That would be fun. I think of that because actually the very best job I've ever had was I was a film festival director
Oh, cool.
of an outdoor adventure film festival back in the 90s.
Okay.
And so, I just love the whole idea of that, of getting all these creative things and people together to share something. And I think they're in a way magical into how they work. And I look at, what some of them have done between Telluride and Banff and some of those things, and how they've survived over the years. And it's just so impressive to me that I like
Yeah.
that idea. So
Yeah, there's a big enough market for it that that I think that getting it out there, and then leveraging partners there as well. I think so. You have a roughly 2,000 person mailing list, which is actually that's a pretty good size mailing list. I think that there's some things that we could help do there that we can talk about.
Good.
But so we'll come back to that here in a moment. But also just leveraging the power of that extended network, where if you have something really special, whether that's an event or a piece of content that you've created, like a short movie, or even tips on things, I think are really valuable, particularly if you have access to some of these people that have a ton of experience in the backcountry or ultra running or what have you. Just leaning on those sponsors or those partners that you have.
Yes.
To get out to their extended lists, because a lot of times they have a much wider reach.
Yes. Yeah. And we absolutely are connected with, a lot of the really, big dogs in the ultra and that universe. And
Right.
so we should do more with that. And, so That's a great idea. I mean, sometimes our newsletter, which is, that's the perfect place to incorporate that stuff, right? And then to, push it out. Otherwise, that's the kind of things we could share on social media as well. That's actually meaningful. So good calls on that for sure.
Yeah, I think so. Coming back to your lists, so one of the things that we've found can be really helpful is to come at those relationships from a position of sharing information,
Yep.
as opposed to necessarily asking for support.
Yep.
And one of the things I've seen work really well with, so the Golden Gate Dirty 30 is held up here in Golden Gate Canyon State Park, which is about 3 miles from my house.
Yeah.
And I ran it a couple, or I've ran it a couple times. And the second time I ran it, the race director was looking for ways to get people engaged. And so she created kind of a training program. And I know this year, because I'm still on the list, even though I'm not really running all that much anymore. But this year she had one of her elites who she's just kind of partnered with, I think. He may also be a coach, come up with a coaching plan and gave that away alongside the registration fee. So if you signed up by a certain point, or there was some kind of exclusivity component to it, right. But essentially there was a training plan attached. So then she asked for volunteer help, and this is where I kind of came into the picture, since I live up here and I was running on course pretty much every weekend anyway. She was like, "Oh, well, can you lead some groups?" And so we started doing kind of weekly runs on course, and that got a lot of people up here and engaged in the program, and kind of felt like they were part of this community.
Yeah, no, I mean, such great ideas. Megan, who is the race director, is a friend, and I think I actually am amazed. She's done an extraordinary job. So, I mean, both those are killer ideas. I mean, I love that. And I know if, when we can do our Up for Air series again, that if we offered, people the chance to come up and, run the course a couple of weeks before, I just guarantee you that people would eat that up. And, I'm like you in a way that my stellar running days are slipping away.
Yeah, for sure.
Shall we say? But there's plenty of people that are in the gang that would probably more than happily lead groups. And, I can see us having faster ones, medium ones, slow ones, and, just the walk and talk ones too,
Yeah. Well, and then just, that opportunity too, to kind of, rub elbows, for lack of a better description or phrase, with some elites, as because there are lots of people who would love to start a run with, for me it was Tony Kropitschka back in the day. If I had the opportunity to even start a run with him, that was an amazing experience.
Yeah, because that's about as far as it would go for me.
Pretty much.
Speaking of him, I just saw something about him where, he's had injuries and he hasn't been running so much, but I just saw he posted something about how he just took a quick trip down and did rim to rim to rim at the Grand Canyon. And he was super excited because it wasn't his fastest, but he still did it in 7.5 hours, which is, when you think about it, that's unbelievable. I mean, it's like, wait, really? That's faster than I ever did it. And, so I just love stuff like that. That level thing.
Back when I used to run ultras and follow him, he had a couple of round trips that were faster than my to the top. And I, I wasn't a great ultra runner, but I definitely wasn't horrible. And, I think his round trip in fact, I know that his round trip on longs was pretty much exactly the same as it took me to get to the top.
Wow.
And then even in like Green Mountain, at one point he was running green, every day or something. And, his every day was like, his round trip was basically what it would take me to get to the top.
Yeah. I mean, it's just those people and guys like that. Joe Grant's another one. They just, what I love about them is it looks so effortless for them. And they're built, they're designed for that. And I love that they figured out that's where it goes. Right.
Yeah.
So, it's like Phelps is a swimmer, same thing. Right.
Yeah.
The guy was designed to be a swimmer, and fortunately somehow he ended up being one.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, you're right. It's those are, we've been talking with Hoka, who is one of our great sponsors, about, starting a run club with them, because they have the same thing, right? They don't have enough bodies to be everywhere. And so
sure.
That's something that's really interesting to us as well. So, and we've just started working more closely with a local nutritionist, and she's going to be adding content to our newsletters, going back to your thoughts about, adding valuable stuff as opposed to just, asking. And that's, so she wants to do a regular piece for us, which is super great for us, because nutrition is one of those things that can make,
that can make or break your day.
Right. So, and she's great. So, she lives up in Netherland too, I think. No, Jamestown, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So on that same vein, I think one of the things you might try is, instead of just sending out a monthly newsletter that has, 8 things in it, send out more frequent, value-driven single items.
Okay.
And you could segment your list. You could ask people if they'd be interested in, in either running or other endurance nutrition tips, and basically try to peel people off into specific categories. Like, are you more interested in running? Are you more interested in distance cycling, or wherever your categories fall?
So when you do that, do you like send them almost, it's not, I guess it's like almost a poll when you send it out, so you send one out that says, okay, we're going to start doing this. Tell me what you want to hear about, and then go from there. Cause most people won't, everybody will respond. Right.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a variety of different ways that you could tackle that problem. And the first one would be to just start sending out more frequently, and just have, if you have access to a nutritionist who's willing to put some content together, just, if you send out once a month right now, just once every couple of weeks, maybe send out just a nutrition specific email that's like, hey, we've been trying to create more value for our community, and this person's on board, and here's today's nutrition tip. And then after you've done a few of those, you might be able to send out a survey that says, what other stuff would you be interested in? And that way your list can actually start to help you create content, or at least understand more about where their interests lie.
Yeah, no, great idea. Yeah. Cause we've been thinking about that a lot, and just trying to figure out how to, make sure that we're giving something useful always. Right. There's enough gear review places that we wouldn't do that probably, but, providing training advice, other ways to get involved. One of the other things we really want to figure out how to do is get more people involved in the trail maintenance, sort of step up, join that effort somehow. Because I think sometimes there's the perception is that we all go out and play a lot, but we don't do it to give back on that score. So there's a new program from COMBA, the Colorado Mountain Bike Association, that's called the Single Track Collective, which is all about getting sort of the variety of trail users to step up so that it's not even branded COMBA, so it doesn't look like it's a mountain bike thing. It's just a trail users thing. And so that's an interesting thing that we're going to get more involved in coming up as well.
Yeah, I think trying to give people the knowledge about things that's the first step, and certainly, there's some communities that tend to do a little better job with the volunteer piece. But if you can create the knowledge and create the understanding, I'd say that's the first step. The second step that I really like is to give people a variety of different ways that they can participate. I know that ultra runners and distance runners in particular are pretty finicky about their days off in terms of they have a plan, they are sticking to it, and it's a little tough to sometimes get them to be able to think about taking time to give back in a time capacity, but a lot of them could give back in a monetary capacity. And so just really being, again, very inclusive in terms of opportunities to spread the word. That's the other thing that I think is a potential opportunity, is that most of these people, running and cycling both are very community-based kind of activities. Even though you're burning a lot of miles by yourself, you usually have kind of a crowd around you that you latch onto, or you're talking to on a regular basis. And so, encouraging people to donate either time or money or both, to if they can do that, then also share, and get involved that way, and basically share that messaging and share that mission to their bigger groups.
Yes, no, I mean, you're right, because there's so much conversation about the quote community, right? And that being the community of trail runners. And I mean, they tend to be, really good people who are invested in the outdoors and things like that. But I think you're right that oftentimes, it's the same old story, that people don't always know how to give back in that way. So for us to find other ways for them to be able to do that is a good thing. So I love that idea. That's good.
Yeah, I think it's it comes back to that, you don't know until you know. And so if you can create a mechanism by which that knowledge is being distributed, and you're making it easy to share, and easy to to get to that information, that's really that first step.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's I keep telling myself, it's like, I can't do all of those things, right? I can't go do this, do that, do that. So if I can help, introduce other people to some of those things, so that, ultimately what needs to get done gets done, then that's the win, right? And people love being part of that. And that's solid. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I think just what you're building is this community of people who are enthusiastic about the outdoors. They're enthusiastic about activities in the outdoors, and many of them are very enthusiastic about very extreme activities in the outdoors. And then you're taking that one step further, which is how can you give back a little bit to this activity and this place, or these places that you enjoy so much. And whether that's doing a trash day, or doing there was a trash jog, what do they call that?
Flogging.
Flogging.
Yeah.
And just encouraging one day a month of slow it down. It's going to be good for your training anyway.
Yeah, right.
and just go out and just do a trash run.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I haven't yet to have been on a trail run where I didn't see something that I ought to pick up. Right? I mean, that's just the nature of it these days. So.
Yeah, it's the old poop bag fairy conundrum, where people seem to think that exists.
Yes, right. Wait, you mean you don't pick those up, Stu?
The fairy does, I think.
Yeah, the trail fairy. I know him or her.
Yeah, drives me nuts. But again, I think that there's just an education component to that, and trying to think about that Venn diagram of all of this overlap and figure out where those sweet spots lie.
Yep.
Is where I think all of us in the outdoor both environmental and playing community. I think if we can figure out where those overlaps occur, that's where there's going to be a lot of power.
Yeah, and it's also, I feel like it's pretty essential, right? As we're all, I'm sure it's true where you are too, but I have never seen the trails as busy as I have in the last year. It's kind of overwhelming in a way, and I get it, because it's one of those things we can all do to sort of clear our heads and find something normal. But we're going to love it to death if we don't start, taking some of these steps that we all need to do, so that my kids and their kids and so on, get to enjoy and appreciate the same things. So.
Yeah. One of the first podcast that I recorded was with Anna from Volunteers for Outdoor Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
They have a really great trail building and maintenance program. They also do community gardens and some neat things like that. But one of the things that she said, and I may have my numbers wrong a little bit here, but they were pretty much this dramatic, that 90% of Coloradans self-identify as outdoor people. Mm-hmm. And less than 1% volunteer to do any trail work. And so there's a huge opportunity there. And I think that, that you can kind of get wrapped up in those numbers and be sad about that. Or you can just say, well, how low is that bar? If we could get 5% of the people to give back, or 10%, those are not big numbers to hit. And so there's just so much opportunity there. And I think it really does start with education and just letting people know, how don't cut switchbacks and don't put up cairns unless, just all of these things that are, you just don't know until you know.
Yes. Right. I've always liked that. What is it? Keep it single, stupid. It's, it's like, why are you going over there to go around me? Stop. What are you doing?
Yeah. And just step off the trail and let people pass, and then step back on the trail. And that's certainly something that is a big challenge these days, as people are trying to social distance. But, again, those are great content ideas for your newsletter and your blog and just getting that message out. And maybe it's, you could do a quick video of 5 trail tips and just show how to and how not to pass somebody on the trail.
I love that idea. That'd be fun, actually, too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
If we could, I'm sure a fight would start, even, trying to do an educational video.
Well, maybe, but hopefully it just starts conversation and just gets people thinking about it a little bit more.
But I think that's one of those things that would be fun and somewhat useful, I think. So yeah,
absolutely.
I like that idea a lot. So
well, this has been super fun, Peter. I'm really glad you were able to join me here today.
You and me. I've got a whole bunch of great tidbits that I'm going to go play with and figure some new things out. And, that's exciting for us. And
what were your top 2 or 3 takeaways?
Some new things to ways to engage the crew and get some new content out there. find other ways to, offer educational pieces, sort of switch the newsletter up a little bit, and the other thing that comes from this, that it wasn't a direct thing, but it also makes me realize that it sort of goes back to what you and I also do as part of COBA, and that is that there's a lot of businesses that actually really do care about the outdoors, but that aren't directly engaged in the outdoors. You know what I mean? So that it tells me that I ought to be talking to more of those people as well, because in some ways, it's that same old story, right? If you're only talking to the same people that believe in what you believe, you're not changing much. So because I can potentially see them as sources of volunteers and other kinds of support that would be super interesting. So that just came out of that conversation of just opening some doors a little bit and trying to be more, inclusive and inviting and things like that. So that just, that took a little root there. That's good for me.
I love it. That's fantastic. So how can people find your organization? What's the best way to get in touch?
Just follow us on, Instagram. We're just at Suffer Better, and go to our website, sign up for the newsletter. There's one of those, ubiquitous pop-up forms.
Sure.
But if you sign up, you don't see it again. So that's the beauty of that.
Nice.
I'm easy. I'm Peter at sufferbetter.com. So you got a question, you got something you want me to know, or ways you can think we can do something different, I'm always happy to get an email,
Oh, that's awesome. So I love our conversation, and I really like talking about things, but I also want to try to foster some action. What action would you want people to take after listening to our show today?
A couple of things. One, pay attention when you're out there, pick something up. If you're on the trail, follow the rules. Etiquette's super simple. Be nice to each other. Remember that, we're just visitors here, and treat what's out there with respect, and treat your fellow trail users nicely. And then come run with us. What the heck? We'd love to see you. Or now, if we do this ride and tie, come run and ride with us.
That sounds awesome.
That's the best things, right? Those are fun.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool event. Right. I'm excited to learn more about it.
I'll expect to see you at the start line, my friend.
Well, we'll see. I need to get my running chops back up, and I need to stop falling off my bike. Yeah. So
both of those things are inhibitors for me as well. It's like, oh wait, I'm on the ground, and my runner is now like a mile ahead of me. I'm in trouble. So yeah, problem.
Well, thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it, and go outside and have some fun.
Listen, I really appreciate it. It's always nice to talk to you anyway. So I appreciate the time and your thoughtfulness. All of those things make a huge difference to me, and it's appreciated. So
it's my pleasure.
Thanks, man. All right.
Sure. All right, there you have it. Another great episode of Relish This. Thanks for listening. If you would like to learn more about how to apply the audience engagement cycle to expand your organization's mission, there are two things you can do. Right now, you can go to missionuncomfortablebook.com to download a copy of my book. And while you're there, you can get your purpose-driven marketing score to see where you can unearth some gold for your organization. If you'd like to listen to back episodes of the show or sign up to be a guest, go to relishstudio.com/podcast. That's it for this week. I'll be back next week for another great episode of Relish This.